Welcome to eFormula Series. Once again on Short Shift Broadcasting, we are at the Hockenheim ring for the round number 4. I excuse myself for the graphics there saying round 6. It is actually round 4 in season number 4 of the eFormula Series, driving with the Formula Renault 3.5 race cars, and we've had some great action in the past 3 seasons. We've had 3 races this season already that were action-packed and actually had good occupancy. A lot of drivers showing up for the first 3 races. The first one in Okayama was won by Pavel Vasilev. The second one on the Hungaroring was won by Buzzi, and the third one in Motegi on the road course was won by Camille van den Driesche, that is currently in this practice session on the top spot as we speak. So here in Hockenheim Ring, we are getting ready for the qualifying, which will be a 15-minute open session, as you are used to by at the eFormula Series right now. We have currently 13 drivers on the track, one of which is Dave Gilt, that's driving while being pretty sick, so we're hoping that he's going to make it through, and we're hoping that he's going to do well. If you look at the track map there, you see that the Hockenheim Ring has been shortened quite a bit from the original track that was used in the 70s and 80s. The long straightaways going all the way through the forest are gone, and basically pretty much after the first part, after start finish, it's a right turn, and then we have a short straight, and then a very sharp right-hander that leads us onto kind of a curving straightaway. It's really not straight, but it kind of works as a straightaway, and then all the way to a very tight hairpin that'll take us back towards a right-hander, left-hander, and another right-hander, and that'll take us back into the stadium. So we're going to be we're looking at a partly cloudy sky here. It's fairly windy. It looks like the wind is up at 22 kilometers an hour. That is fairly windy. The track temperature is right around 19 degrees Celsius. That is not too bad. The humidity is at 41%. The track is 4.53 kilometers long, and this is the scene of round number 4. The championship standings, folks, as we will go to a different graphic here that'll show you that Camille van der Driesche is currently leading the pack here with a blistering pace of 123.44. In the championship, Camille is in second position with 42 points behind Pavel Vasilev with 50 points. Pavel is not here today. He has called out. He cannot make it, and I think his teammate is also not going to be here, which is Christophe Buzzi. Third in the championship is Juanzo Ovala. I hope I pronounce his first name correctly. From driving for the Iridium Motorsports, he's got 24 points. Buzzi is fourth, sharing that with Christophe Seyar with 20 points, and Eloy Caballero also 20 points. And then in seventh position we have the Tulip Racing driver Danny Hoekstra, sharing that seventh position with his teammate Dave Gilt, both with 18 points. On ninth position, we have Esteban Guadarrama with 17 points, and the top 10 in the points is rounded out by our two-time champion, Paul Ilbrink. And Paul has shown very good pace this season. He's just not been very lucky. He's had some offs and some issues and some running in with others. And unfortunately, he has only gathered up 14 points for this season so far. So I'm sure he is eager to do better. This time he is showing in 12th position in the practice session right now, but it is kind of like Paul not really to show his hand in the practice session, so I'm not too worried about him. Also, very quick here today so far is Jeff Browning, the number 63 driver, driving for the Fear the Deer racing team. Let's see if he is out on track. Yes, indeed, he is. There you have him. And he is currently in the third position with a pretty good lap time there. 24.3. And it looks like his teammate, Christian Malipart, is in 4th position. So both the Fear the Deer drivers are doing pretty good. Jeff is going into the pits. Obviously wants to practice entry to the pits. As you know, these guys are going to be running the race on 50% full fuel capacity, which means that they're going to have to make a pit stop. The 50% fuel capacity is probably going to take them, let's probably say right around 65 to 70% race distance. So we will see drivers make some choices on strategy. You can pit early and do the second part of the race, after an early stop, and you can pit late, which means that you have to take on less fuel and you spend the last few laps on fresh tires compared to those who pit early. Generally speaking, pitting as late as possible is most often seen as being the quickest way around the track for the entire duration of the race. So we'll have to see which drivers make different decisions than others. Obviously, we're going to see how that all pans out. And sometimes, obviously, if you run damage or slight damage on your car early in the race, some drivers will try to keep going for the remainder of that first stint and do an early pit stop to get it fixed, and then that way they don't have to make an extra pit stop. Because obviously, if you run damage on the first few laps and you do need to take a pit stop on lap 1 or 2, you're still not gonna make it on fuel. You're gonna have to probably go, I would say somewhere to lap 12 to 15 at least before you can make a pit stop. And I'm sure the team manager, there you have the Fear the Deer drivers both together here in this practice session. We are still in practice. We have about 7.5 minutes left of practice. Just wanted to get you in the action already and see how we're doing here. We got 13 drivers currently present in the race session. And that is a little bit less than last week. Actually, it's probably the lowest we've had it this season. But that part of the problem is that both Atomic Racing drivers unfortunately couldn't make it. Pavel Vasilev and Christoph Buzy both having issues. Buzy actually was reprimanded for an incident in Motegi, and he was going to have to start the race in last position on the grid anyway. So he is kind of absent and taking his penalty that way, and that kind of relieves race director of all sorts of organizational problems. All right, let's go and check out some of the other drivers here. We have Eloy Caballero. I hope I pronounced his name right. Eloy has been a new addition to the series this season, and he's been doing pretty good. He's been showing some extremely good pace. He runs for the Iridium Motorsports team, if I see that correctly. Yes, he does. And he's been showing some really good pace. He just hasn't had quite the luck to turn that into victories just yet, but we're expecting big things from this guy. And the season is still obviously wide open, only round 4 of 10, so we haven't seen what we've seen before, where one driver would dominate, that driver being Paul Ilbrink, having won 2 championships in this league. And he's like I said, he's been a little bit unlucky this season, and he hasn't been able to perform. All right, I'm hoping your sound is all correct. All right, so let's take a look at some other drivers here. Juancho Ovala, I'm going to just call him Ovala. I don't want to rape his first name if I don't have to. So the number 27 driver slotting into the second position. Camille van der Dries is still on top. Ovale now in second position, and it looks like he's pretty happy with that. 123.61, that's a pretty good lap time. Caballero pushed down to third. Browning and Malipart, the teammates, fourth and fifth in practice here. Danny Hoekstra in sixth, showing some pretty good pace as well in the upper 124s right now, so he's a little bit over a second slower than Van der Driesche, but it is hard to tell whether these guys are both on qualifying setups or not. Danny could be on race setup, trying to prepare himself for the race itself a little bit more than Van der Driesche is, so that is always a little bit of a guess in practice. Paul Ilbrink, two-time champion in the number 10 car with the Radicals Online Track Racer team. His teammate Manuel Domingo is actually here as well. Paul having a little bit of an off there. That could actually be on purpose to let a faster driver go through. That is good sportsmanship. And Paul is currently in 7th position. And like I said, the dominance that he displayed earlier in earlier seasons has not been here this season so far. He's qualified quite well in the first 3 races, and so far he is 7th in practice. But like I said, Paul has a tendency of not really showing his hand in practice, and that actually throws people off a little bit here and there. All right, his teammate Manuel Domingo is currently not on track. He is in the pits. Javier de la Fuente is in 10th position here in practice. Javier is running for the 0X team in the black and yellow livery, and then Esteban Guadarrama in the Radicals racing team. The Rebellion racing team. Esteban is currently in 24th position, and his teammate is Leonardo Fabian Maz, and he is in 12th position currently. Dave Guild, as said, not feeling well today. He is not here, and hopefully we'll see him during qualifying and the race, but that remains to be seen. And obviously not starting is going to cost him quite a few points. Dave was a strong championship contender in the previous season, season number 3. And unfortunately that race was decided in the last race and in Paul Ilbrink's favor instead of his. But he had a strong season. He's been doing pretty good in Hungaroring and Motegi. He missed the first race, unfortunately. So we'll have to wait and see how he does here tonight. Let's see what happened to Eloy Caballero. Oh, that is nothing. That was just him stopping his practice session. We have just under 2 minutes to go here in practice, folks, and then we'll go into the qualifying, open qualifying in this series. Always been that way. 15 minutes. Everybody is on track at the same time, so that really sometimes gives you a little bit of a, ooh, there we see Paul having a little moment there, getting onto that curvy straightaway, going back up to speed there. And we see Dave Guild coming out of the pits to put in a final few laps here. Maybe changed something on his setup and wants to give that a try before going into qualifying. Beautiful Tulip Racing cars, orange, absolutely no doubt about what country the team is from. And Dave comes to a halt here as the final seconds of the practice session are ticking away. Let's see who we have left on track. Javier de la Fuente is, looks like he's coming into the pits. See if we got a better angle for that. Absolutely we do. There you see onboard shot, trying to find his pit location. And there we have Eloy Caballero, still the only, he's currently still on track. Oh, we have Mark Ponick arriving here as well in that beautiful Gulf livery car. And Mark has been pretty quick as well this season. And we're glad to see him come around. Practice is over, folks, and we are going to move into the open qualifying sessions here for round number 4 at the Hockenheim ring in the eFormula series. Looks like Danny Hoekstra is the first one out on track. He is being followed there by Paul Ilbrink. And now it is actually going to matter. The graphics, folks, you see on the bottom of your screen will show you the drivers scrolling by here. And on the bottom bar, where it's not yet colorful, it'll become colorful. Green sectors means personal best for the driver. A purple sector means best sector so far on track of any driver. And as you can see, it's pretty busy. And if it's an orange sector, that means that the driver did not make an improvement. And as you can see, it's the two Radicals Online cars right behind Danny Hoekstra. Manuel Domingo back in action again this time. You see them waving left and right, folks, to try and put some heat in those tires. And we see somebody has gone off. That was actually Danny Hoekstra, I believe. Yes, it was. A little too eager on the gas, noses it into the tire barriers. Doesn't look like he has any damage, but he's probably going to take a new car in the pits anyway. And we also had an off here for Christian Malipard in the second of the Fear the Deer cars. Pretty heavy off actually here. And he is going to have to go back to pit lane and start over once again. Paul Ilbrink leading his teammate on his first fast lap, and look at the colors below. He has set 2 session best sectors on the racetrack. Manuel Domingo, not far behind him in that number 9 car with 2 personal bests. So let's see what times we get out of this one. Let's ride along here with Paul Ilbrink. Ooh, Paul is slowing down to get his teammate by. That's going to ruin this lap for him. Well, we'll jump right on board with his teammate, Manuel Domingo. 2 purple sectors there for him. So he is actually doing pretty, he's on it. He's definitely on it. Into the stadium section here. And on your left here is actually a drag strip. Last turn, coming onto the main straightaway, an opening turn with a pretty big runoff area, and then the first turn here is pretty tight, but it's very high speed. So at the start of the race, we might be seeing some issues there. All right, so let's bring you back up to the camera. Oh, it looks like Paul is struggling a little bit here. He has already gone a little bit wide on that second lap, and as you can see, yellow sectors, that means he's really not doing as good as he would hope to be doing. Hasn't set a time just yet. Manuel Domingo is leading the pack there with a 1:23.6 as the fastest lap time currently. And in second place, we have Ovale in the 27 car, 1:24.13. And it looks like he's struggling a little bit to get past, I believe that's Jeff Browning. Yes, it is. And that's the big issue with Vale has decided to park it there and go back to the pits. That's the problem with the open qualifying, folks. In open qualifying, obviously you deal with other people. And the track is not entirely yours, obviously. So that brings you to situations like that, and sometimes tempers flare a little bit, but it's also your own responsibility to make sure that you find that you find an open track, that you get out of the pits and time yourself as far as where the other drivers are. We see the entire field showing some qualifying times here, with Maas currently closing the tail end of the field here in 12th position with a 125.73. And we have not yet seen a time for Dave Gilt. That kind of tells me that he may not be feeling good enough to start the race. Unfortunately, I hope he does. It may also mean that he's just going to try and take it a little easy compared to what he would normally do and just start in the back of the pack. And obviously he could do that and still have a decent outcome of the race. Things are going to happen, and you can always count on that. It looks like Van den Driesche, as we just caught Domingo going off, it looks like Van den Driesche has gone off. Let's see what happened. Just a little eager on the gas there, and that will turn you around. And then Manuel Domingo had an issue as well. Pretty much basically the same issue. If you get on the gas too quickly with these cars, you're very unlikely to save it. It is not an easy car to drive. I've been a part of this championship for the better part of season 2 and 3, folks, and I can tell you from my own experience, this is a very, very tricky a piece of machinery. It's a very high-powered car with pretty hard tires, not much grip in the tires. The aero package is pretty good. You see the wings on the rear are pretty up high, even on a track with long straights like Hockenheim. A lot of drivers will still prefer to stay on high downforce settings to give themselves all the grip in the turns that they can find. As you can see on the graphics below, Paul Ilbrink has had 2 good sectors. So let's find Paul. He is currently on his way towards the stadium. There he is coming into the stadium. And it looks like his... nope, he's not on his top performance in the sector 3 and 4. And he's setting himself up here to try again. So let's stay with Paul here for a moment, as his teammate is currently on the pole. Hoekstra. Oh, Hoekstra has done a great lap here. 123.69, only 0.2 of a second behind Manuel Domingo in second position. That is a very, very good lap for the Dutch driver. And he comes off a podium finish in Motegi, I believe, and he is putting himself here up in the front of the field with a very, very fast lap time. Mark Ponick also doing a great job here, only 0.7 of a second slower than the pole time with a 123.74. And let's see, Caballero, as said, the newcomer, he has been quick. Paul Ilbrink currently on 2 fastest sectors, so let's catch up with Paul here. And let's see how he is doing. Let's see where we're at. We're going back towards the stadium. That's where he lost his time before. He's gone personal best now for 3 and 4. So his final sector, he might be pushing himself forward here. Dave is actually on track. Dave Guild, he hasn't set a time yet, but he is out there. And it's Paul Ilbrink coming across the finish line here, and let's see, his last 2 sectors were not the best, and he's actually spinning out of a straight line. That you gotta have skill for that. Ponick pushes himself into the pole position with a 123.62, overtakes Danny Hoekstra. And Manuel Domingo drops down to the 4th position. He's going to have to get out there and try again. There he is. Let's see, we'll find Dave Guild here. He is on track, and he's driven personal bests, but that's probably because it's the first lap time. Van den Driesche, turns it around on the same spot we saw him do that before. That is a tricky turn for this driver, obviously, and not just for this driver. He went off again. He is in 4th position, and everybody has pushed Domingo down to the 5th position. And as you can see, Camille is only a thousandth of a second quicker than Domingo. That is getting pretty close. Mark Ponick on the pole currently. Last lap was a 1:23.622, and that was the fastest lap around. So Ponick is looking to push himself here onto the pole position. Let's go find some of the other drivers. Jeff Browning, he was doing so well in practice, and he doesn't seem to be able to get it together here in qualifying. He's currently in 8th position, while Dave Guild is actually pushing himself. I'm sorry, he's in 11th position. Dave Guild is actually pushing himself up to the 12th spot, just being a little bit quicker than Fabian Maas. Jeff Browning struggling a little bit to repeat his performance of the practice session. Let's go take a look at his teammate. Christian Malipart is actually in 7th position. That is a little bit better, and they were closer together in lap times in practice than they are now. So Jeff seems to be struggling a little bit. Danny Hoekstra maintaining that 2nd position there, the 1:23.64. Jeff Browning is on 2 personal bests. Ooh, there goes Danny Hoekstra. Turns it around. That is unfortunate. Dave Guild has done a personal best in his 1st sector. His 2nd sector seems to be a little bit slower. Let's see what his final sector is going to show us. Almost there. Currently at a 1:23.622. I'm sorry, the 1:23.622, that's the pole time. And Dave jumps up to 9th position, right behind Paul Ilbrink. It does look to me like Paul Ilbrink is having a little bit of trouble getting up there. He's at a 1:23.9. His last lap was a little bit slower than that. And let's see, his final sector here is pretty good. And he jumps right up to the pole, folks. Paul Ilbrink, we find him right where we are used to finding him. Pole position, Paul Ilbrink, 12 minutes and 5 seconds ticking away in this qualifying sessions. The other guys have less than 3 minutes to push him away from there. And Manuel Domingo has improved his time as well. He is down to a 1:23.57. Actually, only a 1/10 of a second slower than his teammate, so it's a full Radicals Racing first row at the moment. Mark Ponick in 3rd position, Danny Hoekstra in 4th. And all drivers are on track except for Leonardo Fabian Maas. Everybody is out there trying to get something happening. Dave Guild, let's take a look at him. Danny, meanwhile, you can see his sectors are not green, they're not fast. He's trying to get by, I believe that is De La Fuente, and it's not working. Paul Ilbrink improved that time once again, a 1:23. Oh, I'm sorry, that was his last lap. He is on a fast lap. Let's see, his sectors are yellow, so it looks like he's not faster. Ovale is off track. Malipart had an issue. Let's see. Oh, he just parked it out there. It looks like everybody is ready to call it quits here. Minute and a half left in qualifying. Oh boy, we have a little bit of an issue with the connection. There we are. We're back. Looks like we're back. Paul Ilbrink. Hoekstra not able to improve. Danny's been pushed to 5th position because Ovala has done a very good lap time, 1:23.58. He's pushed himself into the 3rd position. Caballero, a little bit disappointing there in 7th position. It kind of, if you just look at these lap times, folks, we have the first 11 drivers within a second of each other. And again, Jeff Browning seems to be struggling a little bit. There must be a setup issue for him as far as his qualifying setup is concerned. He is unable to push into that top 11 within the 1 second even. He is a second slower than the pole time currently. Ilbrink has put in another good lap, 123.33, so that puts him 0.2 of a second ahead of his teammate. It took him a little bit, but he's getting back up there for sure. And let's see, we have another issue for Molly Part. He's just parking the car, it looks like. That throws me off a little bit. There we have it, folks. Qualifying is officially over. Drivers that are on a fast lap can finish that lap, and that time will stand, in fact. So let's see if anybody has a last-minute challenge. Danny Hoekstra was on a fairly quick lap there. He is showing a green second sector in 6th position. Maybe he can have something happening here. We can ride along with him. There he comes across the line. Nope, can't make it happen. No improvement on his time. Ilbrink is off the track there. Let's see what happened to him. And that's the good thing about Paul Ilbrink. He doesn't quit. The session may almost be over, but he just keeps on going. It's bragging rights also a little bit, you know, for some of these guys. They want to be on pole, and they want to be on pole with a good gap to number 2. And again, that's just working on bragging rights. And that's okay. That's part of the deal here. All right, we see Paul Ilbrink going back into the pits. Manuel Domingo is still out there. Let's see. He is also turning into the pits. He is not expecting to improve that lap. Let's see, we have Mark Ponick still out there. Doesn't look like he is a challenge to the pole position. Ovale is still out there. And that is pretty much it, folks. There is no more challenge for pole sitter Paul Ilbrink and Manuel Domingo. The 2 Radicals Racing online teammates are on the first row. That was intense. All right, we're going to wait until iRacing finishes the session, and then we'll get into the race session, folks. And it'll be close to an hour racing. As said, they will have to make a pit stop. Paul Ilbrink looks like he is doing some pretty decent work here to defend his championship title. He is on the front row there next to Manuel Domingo, the 2 Radicals online track racer drivers. Then it's Eloy Caballero in 3rd position. Mark Ponick is in the 4th position. And we have Danny Hoekstra on the 3rd row, 5th position there, the Tulip Racing Machine. Then it's Juanso Ovale. I hope I do that first name right. And then it's Camille van den Driesche and Christian Cornelis on the 4th row. Dave Guild on the 5th row together there with Esteban Guadarrama. Then it's Javier De La Fuente. He is on the 6th row together with Jeff Browning. And let's see, we have one more driver getting there. And if we can show him, there he is. Leonardo Fabian Maas is on the 13th spot there. We're getting ready to go racing, folks. There you have it. The cars are getting onto the grid. Paul Ilbrink and Manuel Domingo. It looks like the pole position is on the outside with the fast right-hand first turn. That does look like a pretty good idea. And that is going to be a tricky, the first problem in this race, folks. That is a fast right-hand turn. It has a large runoff area. There we see the lights coming. Once the lights go off, we are going to be racing. There we go. The field is on its way, and looks like both the red cars have a pretty good start. Ooh, it looks like Ilbrink is going a little bit wide there. Domingo challenges him for the lead, and in the second turn, it looks like Paul Ilbrink is going to have to slot into the 2nd position there. Caballero is being passed there on the outside by Mark Ponick for the 3rd position. Then we have Danny Hoekstra in 5th and Ovale in 6th. Van den Driesche in 7th. Dave Guild up to 8th position. Jeff Browning had a very good start. He is working his way up past, it looks like he is passing Gild there, and he is right behind Van den Driessen. Good start. Everybody has gone on their way pretty good. No incidents in the first lap just yet. But that's it. The first lap ain't over yet. There we see Camille Van den Driessen defending against Jeff Browning. Jeff is bumping over that curb a little bit. Dave Gild is coming closer to him. He's on his inside. And is he passing him? He is still challenging, and he can't make it through. Ooh, we have an incident for Mark Ponick. Let's see what happens. Mark Ponick had an incident. Let's see. Entirely on his own. He just brakes a little bit too late. The rear end gets loose, and he gets off track. He is now in 13th and last position, folks. So he is going to have to, he's got some work to do. That is very unfortunate for him. He was starting very good there. Look at Manuel Domingo pulling away from his teammate Paul Ilbrink by 1.5 seconds already as we start lap number 2. Caballero in 3rd position. His teammate Ovale in 4th position. So we have Iridium Motorsports, both drivers in the 3rd and 4th position. Then it is Danny Hoekstra in 5th. Ooh, it looks like Dave Gild and Jeff Browning got together. Going towards turn number 1. Dave is going in there, and Jeff just touches him. Looks like both drivers are back on track. Dropping back into order, obviously, 11th and 12th. So unfortunate. Let's see if we can see what happened there from the perspective of Browning. There Browning touches De La Fuente. Is that De La Fuente? Yes, it is. Nope. That is a different situation. Ooh, he touches the rear end on the straightaway. That is a nasty, nasty crash there. Ooh, car bouncing around. Jeff Browning had another issue. Let's see if we can bring that back. That is the issue with Guadarrama. Yeah, brakes a little later, and they touch nose to tail, both going around. So plenty of action, folks. Plenty of action in the first race here. All right, let's bring you back live. We are looking at Manuel Domingo leading the pack here. Paul Ilbrink right behind him, 1.5 seconds. That has stabled out already. Caballero and Ovale, both the Iridium Motorsports drivers, 3rd and 4th position. Danny Hoekstra following closely. Let's ride along here with Danny. That'll give you a good idea of the high speeds that we have here at the Hockenheim ring. Coming into the stadium, sharp left-hander, narrow turn, high curb on the outside that drops off a little bit. Take the curb on the left, and then past the drag strip here to the last turn and onto the straightaway. Danny Hoekstra is in 5th position, folks. Camille Van den Driessen is behind him in 6th, and that's a pretty good train of cars here that is fairly close together. Then we have Dave Gild on the tail of Leonardo Fabian Maas. They have moved up from 9th, from the rear of the pack to 9th and 10th. Dave is challenging, and looks like Dave is getting it done. He is getting it done. We have another issue for Jeff Browning. Let's see what happened here. Ooh, we got to bring that back a little bit. It looks like he is trying to reach the pit lane. Maybe had an issue earlier than that, and I think he's just going to park it here. Frustrated, obviously, very frustrated. Car's not running straight. Unfortunate for Jeff Browning, he is not having any luck today. Manuel Domingo, not so. He is ahead, and he's pulling away by about 1/10 of a second every lap. So Paul Ilbrink is struggling. Paul Ilbrink is struggling a little bit to keep up. 2.1 seconds right now. Did he have an issue? I don't think so, but as you can see, he is pulling away from Caballero a little bit, and then Caballero is pretty much leading that train of Ovale, Hoekstra, and Van den Driesche, and then Malipart in 7th position is trying to catch up on the end there. Ooh, it looks like Dave Guild had an issue. Let's go find out what happened. Ooh, he is still having some fun with Maas there. Went off track there a little bit. It looks like Dave went back on track and now finds himself behind Mark Ponick. Caballero and his teammate Ovale in 3rd and 4th position. It looks like Danny is getting closer. Danny Hoekstra is getting closer. Taking a little bit different line there. It looked like Ovale was going a little bit wide. And sometimes they just play around with each other, you know, trying to make sure that the driver in front is having to look in his mirrors. So that's basically just a tactical game that you do in these kinds of races. If you can't just outright pass somebody, you're going to get on somebody's nerves. That's kind of what you're trying to do. All right, Danny Hoekstra holding strong here in 5th position. He had a good result last time, and obviously he's looking for another good result here. Back on the main straightaway, we're getting ready to go into lap number 6 of 42, folks. We have 42 laps to go, and we have a time limit of an hour and 5 minutes. We're not likely to get that. It looks like Jeff Browning has called it a night. He is out of the race, and Javier de la Fuente is on pit road. I can't see him, but there he is. Oh, he's got a lot of damage on that car. See if we can find out to what happened to him. He must have had a little off. I can't find what it is. Hopefully Javier can get back on track and rejoin the pack. Dave Guild and Mark Ponick, they have settled things down a little bit. It looks like Mark Ponick has got a few car lengths on Dave. Dave had a pretty eventful start to this event here. And for somebody that is complaining that he is extremely sick, he is still on it. And that's the Dave that we know. He is always on it. All right, let's go take a look at Camille van den Driesche. Also a new driver to the series this season, and he's been doing a fantastic job. He's been fast, he's up there, he's racy, and he is pushing Danny Hoekstra. Danny seems to have lost a little bit of contact with the two Iridium cars in front of him, but he is still holding off Van den Driesche. Van den Driesche seems to be, it looks like also Christian Malipart has caught up with these guys. And like I said, Danny's dropped off a little bit. Ooh, it looks like Dave, nope, that's a previous event. Van den Driesche and obviously these cars, it stretches out a little bit on these fast parts of the track, and then it kind of comes back together in those tight turns. As you can see, this after that curved straightaway, coming back to that very, very tight hairpin, that's a first or second gear turn. So that is a braking zone that is not to be misunderstood. You can see Van den Driesche looking a little bit to the inside there of Danny Hoekstra, but he's not close enough to make anything happen. It looks like we have Guadarrama in the pit as well, and De La Fuente hasn't moved yet. That's going to be a lengthy repairs no matter what. So let's see, we have Guadarrama leaving the pits again. Not sure if he's going to be making that on fuel. We're only on lap 7, so that's going to be doubtful. Danny Hoekstra holding off Ovale, and it looks like Van den Driesche in the green car. He is having trouble keeping up. Let's ride along with him. That's how far behind he is. I'm sorry, Malipart. I was looking at the wrong driver. Malipart in the Fear the Deer livery, and he looks like he is understeering a little bit in that tight turn there. He's having a little bit of trouble keeping up, and that can be explained by the fact that Camille van den Driesche, there you have him, he has just set the fastest lap of the race, 124.62. So Van den Driesche is on it. Domingo It looks like the deficit for Paul has diminished a little bit, 1.8 seconds, so that tells me that these guys are pretty much evenly in speed, and the lap times suggest the same. They just done their personal bests, 124.8 for Domingo and a 124.81 for Ilbrink, 8.4 for Domingo, 8.1 for Ilbrink. All right, and the two teammates in the Iridium Motorsports team, Ovali and Caballero in third, Ovali in fourth. They are still following, and it looks like Danny is catching back up with these guys. Less than a second now. So let's keep our eye on Danny. Danny looks good today, very good. On the main straightaway, very fast right-hander. You can take a little bit of that runoff curbing area there, but you can't go over too far because that'll give you a slowdown penalty if you're not careful. So you have to be very careful. I believe that's a fourth or fifth gear turn. It's barely a turn, really. It's just basically a kink. Dave Guild hanging on in 9th position, running behind Mark Ponick. Let's go and check a little bit further up the field. Van den Driesche is looking like he is getting a little racier there with Hoekstra. Look at that train of cars coming down the straight, back towards the stadium, or not quite the stadium yet. That's the area right before they go to the stadium. This is also a very tricky turn. And then here you are accelerating through that turn, and then going towards a short straightaway that takes you right back to a right-hander, and this is where we go back into the stadium. Van den Driesche following Hoekstra. It looks to me like Ilbrink is quicker than Domingo. He has done a 124.7, so he's actually a tenth of a second quicker than Domingo, and he is closing that gap. He's just set the fastest lap of the race with a 124.53, and he is definitely closing that gap. So it'll be interesting to see if there's any team orders or agreements between those drivers, or whether they can actually fight for the lead. Both of them really need the points. I mean, Ilbrink only accumulated 14 points as opposed to 50 for Pavel Vasilev, who is not here tonight. Ilbrink needs the points, and let's see, Domingo has only gathered up 1 point, and that was from the first race of the season, I believe, Okayama, where he was very unlucky. May actually have been Hungaroring, I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that, but Domingo is he's only got 1 point so far. That means he's basically been outside the top 12. The first 12 positions, folks, they score points, and everybody else that shows up gets at least 1 point unless you're disqualified. Jeff Browning in 13th position has given up, but he would still get his 1 point for being here today. All right, so let's see at Van den Driesche right behind Hoekstra. He is less than half a second pushing on the Dutchman, and I think he is showing some really good pace. We're only on lap 11, folks, so these guys are also very, very, very aware of the fact that to finish first, you still got to finish. So they're trying to be racy, obviously, and they're working on it, but they can't take too big of a risk, and this car is notorious for punishing you pretty hard if you take too big of a risk. We've seen that with Jeff Browning. Jeff was doing really good in practice, had trouble in qualifying and in the race. Maybe frustration being a part of that. He could not get it done. And there we see Van den Driesche right behind Danny Hoekstra. Danny was coming off that turn a little bit wider. It looks like Christian Malipart is losing touch with these guys in front of him. He's in 7th position. But again, we are only on lap 11 of 42. It's still quite a ways to go. And being on lap 11, I would say pit stop would be possible. Lap 12 to 15 is probably a fairly good guess. So it's still too early for that, and it looks like De La Fuente is never left pit road. Still working on that car maybe, although if there's that much repair, most of the time in these open wheel cars, your team will tell you, sorry, too much damage, you're done. So I don't expect Javier to be coming back out. Ilbrink. Looks like the deficit is stabilized again, 1.8 seconds, and they may have just, it looks like Esteban, let me see, Guadarrama. We've seen that pit stop, I'm sorry. It looks like that deficit has stabilized and even grown back a little bit again. Ilbrink now 2 seconds behind, and it looks like Javier de la Fuente has finally left the race. He's out, officially out. 12th position for him, scores 1 point. And Ilbrink chasing after his teammate. Let's keep an eye here on Hoekstra. Hoekstra is looking like he's getting a little racy with Ovale here. Right along with him. We're in the stadium, approaching the last 2 turns here. This is where we get back on the main straightaway. Full speed through the gears. 6th gear. Let's see what gear he takes in the first turn. Oh, he actually does that in 5th gear. You can hear the car on the rumble strips there. Very tight right-hander brings us onto a left turn where you go full throttle here in that curvy straightaway on towards the hairpin. He's on the rev limiter there. That tells me his gears are either short or he was on the push to pass. I doubt that last bit though. He's not on the push to pass or on the DRS. It looks like he in the draft of the cars in front of him, he gets to the rev limiter. And that's going to make an overtake on that straight difficult. Because the DRS is not going to help him gain any top speed if he's already on the limiter when he's not using it. Close behind Ovale, both the Iridium teammates in front of him. Ovale taking a bit of a defensive look already. Oh, Ovale running a little bit wide. Hoekstra cannot take advantage of that. On to the main straightaway. Once again, Van den Dries is still close behind Hoekstra there in the 6th position. Malipart is in 7th, lost contact. He's kind of by himself right now. He's got 8 seconds on Ponic. Dave Gild is in 9th, and Dave has also lost a lot of ground on Ponic. 5 seconds behind him now. Maybe the illness is starting to take its toll on the English driver here, unfortunately. But I still commend him for showing up and doing his best, even if you're 6. Ooh, we are having a battle here for Van den Dries. Let's see what happened there. Van den Dries came on the outside for the hairpin, came alongside Hoekstra, and still on his outside, but it looks like Danny is going to pass him back. No, it's not. Let's see, it looks like Van den Dries has got that done. Van den Dries takes over 5th position from the Dutchman, who is running behind him there. Malipart is having an issue there, going off the track. Let's see what happened to Malipart. Ooh, good save, good save. This is so difficult with this car, folks. I cannot stress that enough. That is so very difficult. He made a giant save there. Okay, let's go back to Van den Dries and Hoekstra. Looks like this is stretching out again a little bit. Danny was obviously pushing very hard, and he's giving himself a little bit of a breather here right now. Ooh, Van den Dries taking a look there on Ovale, but he's not close enough to get that done. Domingo sets the fastest lap of the race at a 1:24.45. Ooh, and something may have happened actually to Paul Ilbrink. Paul is 4 seconds down from Domingo right now. He must have made a mistake somewhere. See if we can find that. No, can't have been a big mistake because the computer would show that. But Paul is definitely having a little trouble keeping up with his teammate here. Maybe he's just saving himself up a little bit. Maybe he will try something with a different pit stop strategy to get ahead. And maybe he's just thinking, you know what? As far down in the championship as I am, second place points are very welcome to me. Why risk everything? And Domingo, even further down in the championship, he wants that win. It looks like he's on it today. All right, let's go back to the group behind. That's Eloy Caballero and his teammate Ovale is still third and fourth. These guys are doing very, very good. And it's Van den Driesche getting closer to Ovale there. He's putting it on the inside towards the hairpin. Can he do it? He is on the inside. And I will commend Ovale for being a fair sport there and giving him the room. It looks like Van den Driesche picks up fourth position. They're still side by side coming into the stadium, and now it's Ovale on the inside, and Van den Driesche thinks the better of it and lets him have it and slots in behind the number 27 car going towards the stadium there. Ooh, Ovale had a problem. Yes, they touched. Did they touch? Let's bring that back. Yes, they did. They touched. Let's give you that one more time, folks. They're going towards the entry of the stadium here. They're side by side. Van den Driesche is in there. And they touch wheels, and that was all she wrote. That might actually be a situation where protests will be filed after the race, although to me you can also look like this is an racing incident. Ovale had another issue. It looks like his car's damaged. Yeah, it's crooked. It doesn't look like it's running straight. And he jumped into the pits, and that might actually save him from having to do a pit stop again. Lap 17, that pit stop would be able to take him to the end. He is still in the pits, and he probably took what we call a tow. That means that you jump into the pits with the escape button, but iRacing will calculate time that would simulate a tow to the pits, and that's probably what he did, so that's why you see no action there at all. Domingo still in charge. 4.8 seconds after that is Paul Ilbrink, and then another 3.2 seconds to Caballero, and that fact that he is only 7 seconds behind the leader is something that I commend Eloy for. He is on it. He's got good pace, and he's new in this championship, but look at him. He's running for third position here. Van den Driesche in fourth. Danny Hoekstra now back in fifth, obviously, because of Ovale's trouble. We will keep an eye on Ovale and see if he comes back out. I hope for his sake that he does. He was running really well there in fourth position behind his teammate. Christian Malipart, he is now 4.4 seconds behind Hoekstra. He can see them at the end of the straight there, but he's losing ground a little bit. His lap times are actually pretty good. 24.6, that's not bad at all. Panik is still in 7th position. He is 5 seconds clear of Dave Gill. There we have Dave Gill, and Dave has got Leonardo Fabian Maas right behind him for the 8th and 9th position. Back up to the top 5 positions. Danny Hoekstra trying to close back in on Van den Driesche. And it looks like he's actually getting a little bit closer. He brought it back down to under a second once again. Van den Driesche, I hope he may have a little bit of damage on that left front there from touching Ovale. Although it doesn't look like it. His last lap was a 124.448 to be exact, and so I don't believe he's in trouble. Mark Ponick coming down to pit road. That would be his regular service. I'm fairly sure of that. Ooh! We had an issue for Paul Ilbrink. No, I don't know. Oh, he went a little wide there in the hairpin. My computer showed Ilbrink crashed, and that's not what happened. He just went a little bit wide. All right, so that explains little mistakes like that. Explains why his deficit is 4.6 seconds. We see, meanwhile, that Mark Ponick is coming back on track here. He has taken his regular service. So he's the first one to pit. He's in 8th position. Dave has gotten by him now by 18 seconds. That's not enough to hold. Caballero still in 3rd. Van den Dries still in 4th. And Danny Hoekstra in 5th. Still on it, right behind Van den Dries. That's the closest battle we have on track here. Danny Hoekstra from the Netherlands. Lap number 20. We're pretty much halfway into this race. Ilbrink reacts with a fastest lap of the race, 124.268. That is a good lap time. 0.2 of a second quicker than Manuel Domingo. So Ilbrink is not giving up just yet. He is running good laps. He just makes these little mistakes this season, and sometimes that just kind of breaks him up. Hoekstra, 0.6 of a second behind Camille van den Dries. Not 100% sure where Camille is from. Oh, he's French. Okay. The name suggests he could be a Dutchman or a Belgian, but he's a Frenchman. Good driver. New to the series, as said, this season, and he's been doing very, very, very good. Esteban Guadarrama still running. He's a lap down from the leaders. He's running in 10th position right now. And not sure if he pitted. Well, he actually pitted on that lap 6. Let's see, it doesn't even show the pit stop for Ponick on my computer, but that's okay. We knew he was there. Ilbrink having another incident. He's waving a little bit there. What happened to him? Let's see if we can bring back the... Yeah, he goes a little off there in the first turn. And then he waves and sees, did I do any damage there? Does everything feel okay? And it looks like it does. His deficit on Domingo has now gone up to 5 seconds. Let's go check back on Hoekstra. That seems to be growing, that difference. It's over a second right now. Caballero is feeling the heat behind him turn up. It looks like Van den Dries is closing in on Caballero. Mark Ponick, looks like Mark Ponick has passed Dave Gild, and that's because Dave went to the pits for his regular service. And Leonardo Fabian Maas is also coming in for his regular service. Gild and Maas both going back out. Van den Dries dives into the pits, coming from the 4th position. He's the first one of the leading group that takes it to pit lane. And when you're in that car racing at top speeds on that track, that pit lane speed seems horribly slow. There he is in his box, cars lifted up, tires coming on. Obviously, iRacing doesn't show you that, but they are switching tires and fueling that car up to make it to the end. And Camille is back on his way, only dropped 1 spot, and that is to Christian Malipard. He is in the 5th position right now, but again, he still needs to come to the pits. Ilbrink pretty much equal speed as Domingo at this point. Still about 4.5 seconds deficit. And we are kind of trying to see. Oh, looks like somebody had a little bit of an off. That was Dave. Was that Dave? Yes, that was Dave. Little bit wide there. I don't even think that counts as an off because of that green concrete area there, the runoff area. So I think Dave's okay. He's letting Ilbrink by as a lap driver would normally do in this series. They have the FIA rule that if you see the blue flag and you can safely move over, you are expected to do so. And Dave has just done that to let by Paul Ilbrink. So Dave is now also officially a lap down. First 7 drivers still on the lead lap. Mark Ponick being the final one of that. Here is Mark. Beautiful livery on that machine. And let's check on your leader here. This is Manuel Domingo. Again, he is 4.7 seconds ahead of his teammate Paul Ilbrink. Solid race so far. Haven't seen him make any mistakes. He shows one off-track, slight off-track, which is easy to get in some of these turns here at Hockenheim. iRacing sets the boundaries for you, and if you go over those boundaries, you get a little bit of an incident point. He has had one. Camille van den Dries has not had any of those incident points, and Eloy Caballero is also a driver that has not had any of those incident points. So that tells you that van den Dries, there you have him in 6th position. He's doing a very, very solid job there. He's on it, he's got good pace, and he's not making very many mistakes. And the same is true, folks, Eloy Caballero. Meanwhile, we see Paul Ilbrink putting on another fastest lap of the race with 124.15. It's only a matter of time before that fastest lap of the race is going to go below the 124. With the fuel burning off, obviously, and fresh tires after the pit stop, later in the race we might see some even better times than we are seeing right now. Hoekstra is following closely at Caballero. He has closed that gap to less than 1 second. Doing a very good job here. And they've got what looks to be Guadarrama. Nope. That is Maz that's in front of them. The number 24 machine. Maz in the Rebellion Racing machine in front of these guys, and he's let them by. And that's the way it's supposed to go in this series. Following Caballero onto the main straightaway, Danny Hoekstra starting starting lap 25 of 42. We are well over halfway. It looks like Caballero just got his first incident point, and Hoekstra is taking advantage of that, trying to go to the inside, but no, can't do it. Still on it, onto that straightaway. The draft should be helping Hoekstra here. Malipart, meanwhile, into the pits. Hoekstra going for the 3rd position here, and he is actually side by side, and he's going to make it if he doesn't overshoot the turn here. Locks up that right front wheel just for an instant. Danny Hoekstra takes away 3rd position from Eloy Caballero. Good move. As said, Malipart was, I believe, in the pits. And I believe correctly, that was on the previous lap. He is starting lap 25. We have not seen the leading duo into the pits, Domingo and Ilbrink. They still have to come towards the pit lane. And Danny Hoekstra and Caballero obviously also still have to come to the pit. There we see that is Domingo. Both Domingo and Ilbrink going into the pits. That hands the lead over to our Dutch friend Danny Hoekstra. Caballero also in the pits. So the top 3 drivers there into the pits. Danny Hoekstra taking the lead for now. But obviously he will still have to come there as well. Ooh. Who is going out there first? That is Domingo. It looked, oh yeah, he's in the second pit because he qualified second. Ilbrink also coming out. There you have him. And Caballero coming out. Good pit stops. Let's see what the deficit is between these guys. Domingo and Ilbrink less than 4 seconds. So Ilbrink gained a little bit with that pit stop. And Caballero is now 7 seconds behind. So he actually lost some time on the leading duo. Danny Hoekstra is the leader. Can't be that long before he comes to get his service. But at least he will get credit for a lap led. Into the stadium. In that beautiful orange livery of Tulip Racing. With the big lion on the airbox. And there you have it. Danny comes into pit lane for his service, so he is obviously not going to get credited for leading that lap, because I think he will be passed by Domingo before he passes the start-finish line. Actually, he's not. He's going to get the credit. All right, where is Domingo? Domingo is coming around that last turn as we speak, passing the pit lane. Can we see Hoekstra? Yep, the Hoekstra is here. Coming back out. Let's see how Hoekstra comes in as opposed to Caballero. And he stays well ahead. Now, obviously, he's going to have to get up to speed. He's going to have to warm those tires up a little bit. He's got a little bit of breathing room towards Eloy Caballero. 1.6 seconds after the pit stop. So Eloy has definitely lost the most on his pit stop, and that is a matter, folks, that can be anything. That can be anything. It can be the timing of steering to the right into your box. It can be the approach of the speed limiter, being too harsh on the brakes or being too careful approaching the speed limiter point in the pit on the pit lane entry. So that is why Eloy seems to have lost a little bit there. Danny Hoekstra is 5.2 seconds behind Ilbrink. So all in all, they have not gained, neither Danny nor Eloy have gained anything on the leading duo. 5th place is for Camille van den Driessen. He is now 2.7 seconds behind Eloy Caballero. So the whole thing has just stretched open a little bit more than some of these drivers would have liked. Christian Malipart is actually a little bit closer to Van den Driessen than he was before. And behind him is a leapt driver that looks to me like that is Guadarrama. It is, that's Guadarrama behind Malipart there. He is a lap down. Mark Ponick. Mark is 29 seconds behind Christian Malipart in 6th position, and then Dave Gild is 16 seconds behind Mark Ponick. So the rear end of the field is pretty much completely stretched open, and up at the front, the gaps have widened quite a bit as well because of the pit stops. Sometimes they do that, and sometimes they bring each other, their drivers closer together. It's always a little bit different every race. And as said, a lot depends on how well you enter the pits. That is where you lose the most. If you are too early on your speed limiter and too slow and too hard on the brakes entering before you see those cones, that's where you lose a lot of time. I actually was practicing with another driver one time, and I remember the race in Okayama. He was only like a car length behind me, and when we pitted, he was like seconds behind me, and that's exactly what happened. So that is something that a lot of drivers underestimate and maybe not practice enough, but is definitely worth your time. The pit stop is part of the race as much as any corner on the track. You have to practice your ins and your outs. and getting into your box correctly. If you overshoot your box, you're going to have to back up until iRacing is satisfied that you're in the right spot. Meanwhile, we are looking at Danny Hoekstra in the number 91 Tulip Racing machine, solid in third place. It looks like Eloy Caballero is having a little bit of trouble keeping up with Danny. He has extended that deficit to 2.1 seconds right now. And both drivers may be thinking a little bit, but well, let's get settled back in after that pit stop, get back into your rhythm, and then maybe at the final part of the race, we'll see some more attacks growing. And between Domingo and Ilbrink, we still have about 4.5 seconds. That is pretty stable. Van den Driesche is 2.9 behind Caballero. And Chris Malipard in the only remaining Fear the Deer machine, 6th position, and he is 2.7 seconds behind Van den Driesche. If you look at the positions 3, 4, 5, and 6, there's little over 2 seconds between each of those drivers. That's not a done deal. That's not a done deal. Just the slightest of mistakes can evaporate your advantage in an instant. Let's go and take a look at our friend Dave Guild here. The man that complained he was very sick, and he's running in 8th position. He's going to score some decent points for the championship, obviously. Dave Guild was sharing 7th position in the championship with his teammate Hoekstra. He's not going to be sharing that anymore. He's going to score a little bit less points than Danny, obviously, but still good points, and they are in the top 10. As a team, there's also a team championship in this series, and as a team, they are scoring pretty good points, but obviously not as good as Domingo and Ilbrink. 1st and 2nd in the Radicals Online Track Racer team. That's going to do good. That's going to do good for them in the team championship. And obviously, that's a different story for, I believe, Van den Driesche is by himself in this team, which makes him score privateer points, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see if I have that correct. No, he's actually in a team. I just don't see a teammate. I don't think I've ever seen a teammate. So he might be scoring in the privateer championship. So there's actually 3 championships in each season in the eFormula series, folks. There is an overall championship, the driver championship. Then there's a team championship, and there is also a prize for the best privateer, the highest scoring privateer. Ooh, we have an issue, I believe, for Mark Ponick. Yes, indeed. Got the curbs a little bit too hard, backed it into the tire wall. That car's going to be crooked. That's not going to work right. Yeah, there you can see it. His hands are not straight. If you look at the roll bar cam, car's not straight anymore. He is crooked, and it looks like his day is coming to an end. Van den Driesche, did he have an issue? I don't think so. Ponick is taking it to the pit, and I'm afraid that the team might tell him that it's just too much damage. These open wheel cars are fairly fragile compared to like Porsches and Ferraris and whatnot. And that's obviously fairly good news for Dave. Dave is now in 7th position, and that's what we talked about earlier in qualifying. When it looked like he was going to start last, he turned out a qualifying time started 9th, but a race like this, especially if the field's not too big, you can still score some pretty decent points if you just put in your laps and make sure that you're there at the finish, because stuff is going to happen. Mark Ponick is the prime example of that. He is no longer moving. I'm afraid he's not going to be moving on. Esteban Guadarrama in 10th. He's going to gain that 9th position there in a little bit. All right, Danny Hoekstra in 3rd position. Caballero 2.6 seconds behind. So these intervals between Danny, Eloy, and Camille and Christian, they're pretty solid right now. Guadarrama's picked up 9th position because of Ponick being in the pits. Ponick might try to get some repairs, but I doubt that it's going to work. Hoekstra in 3rd. Ooh, Domingo had a little off somewhere. Let's see if we can catch that. Yeah, a little bit wide over that sausage curb there, and that also is a tricky thing. Those high sausage curbs, as we call them, these open wheel cars, these Formula Renault 3.5s, the under tray is extremely important in generating the downforce. And if you go over those sausage curbs a little bit too rough, you might end up losing some of that downforce and losing some top end speed. Because of the airflow being distorted underneath the car. So you have to be careful with those sausage curbs, and I think Manuel Domingo has figured that out by now. Still, the deficit to Ilbrink is pretty much the same, and I'd like to point out to you folks that Camille van den Driesche, we've looked at him a few times already and noted that he is a new driver in the series and doing an extremely good job. At this point in time in the race, he is the only driver that has not been off track or anything that gave him an incident point. He's doing an extremely very solid job. Danny's only got 2, so he's doing a pretty good job as well. Back into the stadium towards the 2 final right-handers. On the left, you saw that red sausage curb there that Domingo decided to color the bottom of his car with. Danny stays away from it nicely. He has put in a 124.64 as his last lap time, and that is equally fast as Manuel Domingo. So Danny is doing pretty good business here, and as you can see, he is only 10 seconds behind Domingo. He is actually doing a really good job today. Very, very strong performance. It would be his 2nd podium finish in as many races. So Danny hoping to move up in that championship from place number 7 and passing some of the drivers that are in front of him in the standings. And we don't really have any direct battles going on right now, but we have Camille van den Driesche staying pretty solid behind Eloy, and then Christian Malipart has lost a little bit of ground on van den Driesche, but he's still putting in a pretty solid performance here in the John Deere livery, the Fear the Deer Racing team, teammate to Jeff Browning, who was very unlucky and who had to retire fairly early on in the race. Ponick has not left the pits, so that tells me that the damage on his machine is too extensive. And soldiering on here in 8th position is Leonardo Fabian Maas in the Rebellion Racing machine. I'm sorry, I couldn't find it. Senior moment, as we say. His teammate Esteban Guadarrama is right behind him, a minute between the two, but they're still moving, soldiering on, and 8th and 9th for both these Rebellion Racing drivers. It's not bad in the team standings either. That'll score them some good points. It'll probably score them more points than the Fear the Deer team, which has lost one of its drivers. So for the team championship, folks, it's very important that they both make it into the point scoring positions, preferably in the top half, but scoring points, if both drivers score points, that is always very, very lucrative for the team's standings. And that's the same, folks, for the driver in front of Leonardo. That is Dave Gild, and that's probably the reason also that he wanted to start this race regardless of being ill. You know, a 7th position with Danny in 3rd, that's also going to mean some good payout for the team standings. So both Danny and Dave still in the point scoring positions, and Danny in an extremely good scoring position there. And Danny's last lap was a 124.9 as opposed to a 124.5 for Domingo. So he is not keeping up the exact same speed there, but he's not really that much slower. 11.6 seconds behind the leader, and he is 6.5 seconds behind Ilbrink. Ilbrink still right around that 5-second mark from his teammate Manuel Domingo. And it looks like the race has settled a little bit, folks. We're on lap 36 of 42, so we're getting into the final stages here. And tire wear might become an issue for some of these guys. Fatigue, lack of concentration, drop of sharpness might become an issue for some of these guys. It actually looks like Mark Ponick. Nope, I'm sorry. He has left the building. He is no longer in the race with us. Looked for a moment to me on the computer that he was on track again, but he's not. We actually have 8 drivers on the lead lap. That's not bad. And unfortunately, only 9 drivers reaching the finish here tonight. eFormula Series is taking applications. If you're interested in joining this league, folks, you can apply at eFormulaSeries.net. Not on the iRacing League page, but on eFormulaSeries.net. They'll ask you a couple of questions. You need to have a B road license minimum to join this series. And it looks like Paul Ilbrink had a little issue as we were talking about your chances of joining this series. Let me see what happened here. It looks like something happened in front of him. Was a little slow off that hairpin there. I can't exactly see why that was. We can give it another go. If somebody in front of him is having trouble. No, not really. He just missed up his turn point there. Well, that helps Hoekstra a little bit, not much. And Dave Guild. Dave Guild still running in 8th position. Computer showed there was an incident, but I don't see any problem. And we have Manuel Domingo. And obviously, traffic is going to be an issue for these guys. And he is now coming on to the back of Leonardo Fabian Maas. He's going to go a lap down. Again, in this series, they do use the rule that if you see the blue flag and you can move over safely for the leaders, they expect you to do so. And on iRacing, the discussion is always, you don't have to let people go, they have to pass you. But here they expect you to be a gentleman, and especially 4 or 5 laps from the end, you're not going to make up that lap anymore. So just be a gentleman and let the leaders go by, and I believe that's a good rule. Paul Ilbrink will be next to pass Maas, and we see Danny Hoekstra coming onto the straightaway there, a little bit wide, but that should be within the limits of iRacing's penalty system. We're on lap 39 of 42, so we have 4 laps to go. Caballero behind Hoekstra, 2.8 seconds. Keeps it pretty steady, and I can guarantee you that Hoekstra, even though 2.8 seconds sounds like a lot of advantage, Hoekstra is keeping an eye on that. He knows he cannot afford to make mistakes, because that would eat that advantage up right away. And that would put Eloy right behind him for the final laps of the race. So these guys have to stay on top of their game. Ilbrink's deficit has grown a little bit. It's over 5 seconds now. And he's probably also thinking, you know, it's better just safely finish this race. He's not going to catch up to his teammate. Gaining over a second per lap on somebody that is your teammate and normally equally fast, that would be a tall order. There's Hoekstra. And there's Caballero. And there's Van den Driesche, all coming down the straightaway. There's Christian Malipart, 5 seconds behind the number 8 car of Camille. Dave Gilt is soldiering on. Almost 7 seconds behind Maz. That tells me that Dave had a little bit of an issue. And there you have your leader, Manuel Domingo, on to lap 40 with Maz in the background. There's Ilbrink, and there's Hoekstra from the blimp. You get a fairly good idea how the intervals look on track. And there's Van den Driesche and Malipart. The deficit of Hoekstra to Ilbrink has grown to about 7 seconds. So it's fair to say that that all these drivers are basically just consolidating and making sure that they're going to finish in the order that we're running in right now. Looks like it's a pretty much done deal unless somebody makes a big mistake. Which sometimes happens even on the last lap. It's not over until the fat lady sings, as we say in this country, in my country. Once again through the hairpin, let's catch up with Manuel Domingo, because he is running into the stadium right now, and he's going to be seeing, actually he is approaching the stadium right now, I should say, and he'll be seeing the white flag as he passes the start-finish line. We're going to ride along with our leader here, Manuel Domingo. There you see on your left side the drag strips. Last turn onto the main straightaway. He's going to see the white flag going into the last lap of this race. And this is, did he pick up an incident point there? He actually improved the best lap time, the 124.11. We did not dive under the 124 mark, evidently. And Ilbrink also on his last lap right now, did not improve that lap time. Danny Hoekstra's last lap time was a 125.0. He is consolidating as well. There is Caballero. Let's give Manuel the airtime he deserves. He's never really set a foot wrong except for slight mistakes that didn't cost him any time. He has been in the lead from start to finish. It looked like he was on top of his game here this time around. There you have him. He's already waving in celebration, going towards the stadium here. The final few turns for Manuel Domingo. We will hopefully talk to him here in a little bit. Driesche coming onto the straight. And then we have Christian Malipart in the sixth position, I'm sorry. And Maz and Gilt have already been flagged off because they were a lap down. So there you have it, folks. Let's bring up those results for you. If we do everything right. Why are my results not showing? Give me just a moment. I don't think I'm going to get my results on the screen here for some weird reason. We'll have to check into that for the next one. We'll just do it this way. Manuel Domingo, Ilbrink, and Danny Hoekstra round out your top three. And let me go and see if I can find any of these guys. Everything quieting down on the racetrack. Can't find Domingo and I can't find Ilbrink. So let's start with Danny. Danny, this is Mark in the booth. Can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Danny, another solid finish for you. I believe that's 2 podiums in a row.
Yeah, I guess so.
So, I mean, watching your progress, you had you had a very solid race. I think you were behind Caballero and Van den Driesche there in the beginning. It took slight mistakes from those guys to get you past. You actually passed Caballero on track there in a very racy move, I would say, and from there on, you just never looked back, and it looked like your pit stop gave you a little bit of a cushion after that was all said and done. And so, talk us through that, Danny. How did that work out for you?
Oh well, yeah. At first, the start was decent, but I was stuck behind everyone else since it's a bit tight, and I was stuck behind Juancho Oval, I think, and Eloy, and I think those are teammates. And so I was trying to get by Oval because I felt that I was a bit quicker, but I also had Camille behind me, so he tried to go for a move on the inside on me, and I kept the position, and it was quite close and hard battling, but that was all okay. And then a few laps later, I had to let him go, so I was in fifth, I think. Then I think it was Oval and Van der Driesche started battling, and Oval got off track. I mean, got pushed maybe a bit, but I don't know if you saw that
Yeah,
live, but
we double checked that in a replay, and there was definitely contact between those drivers. Left front wheel of Camille touched the car of Ovale, and that was all she wrote. Go ahead.
yeah, but I could figure that Camille was obviously a bit quicker than we were, so I knew he was trying really hard and he would go for any gap. So that's also maybe a bit of a reason why I didn't give him such a hard time the second time he tried to overtake me. And then yeah, I got behind Eloy because they all pitted, and Eloy I think was slow in on that part of the race, so I overtook him fortunately, and I knew it would be close after the pit stop because then he went immediately into the pits and I had one lap left, so I figured I had to go push for one lap more and try to squeeze a bit more out and get a little bit of a bigger gap after the pit stop. But I think he was 1.8 seconds behind me when I came out, so that worked out outside of DRS and slipstream. So yeah, could manage it, but had to be on the limit the whole race. It was tough.
And it looked like that actually. I mean, all you guys, the whole first top six drivers, it looked like they were all pushing very hard. And as you already noted, Camille van den Driesche, one of the new drivers this year in the series, was definitely doing a very good job. In fact, I hate to break your heart, but he's the only driver that has not scored any incident points in this race. So that tells you a little bit about how solid he is running, and we expect big things from him, obviously, in the future. Danny, a well-deserved podium finish, a very solid race. It looks like Tulip Racing is scoring some good team points here as well, with Dave in eighth position. You must feel pretty good.
Yeah, obviously, because David is a bit sick, a bit ill. So he is not up to speed as he usually is. Usually is on my pace or maybe even quicker most of the time. So yeah, I guess to be in P8 with that kind of fitness is kind of a good job. And yeah, it's good points for this weekend for the circumstances. And Yeah, next race we'll try to be up there, both of us.
All right, we're going to count on that, Danny. And with that, anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, obviously my dad for being my spotter again. All the drivers that participate in this league, and yeah, I wanna thank you, of course, for doing the broadcast, and my teammate for being there, even though he's quite sick.
All right, Danny, thank you very much. Let's go to Paul Ilbrink. Paul, I can't find your teammate in this server, but in the server, but you qualified on pole. It looked to me like qualifying had you a little bit off guard, and it took you quite a bit to get up there. What happened?
I didn't really practice. That's the big thing, I guess. It's like a fairly new circuit, which also like I didn't drive like last week in the car, so I had like a week off, and yeah, I don't know. It took a bit of time to get up to speed. Tried like a different setup as well, which didn't quite work, so went back to last season's one, and then like in qualifying it fell together a bit more towards the end. So I got pole, but my start wasn't really good, and we went like side by side in turn one. And then Manuel like handed him the leads because I didn't want to fight him on the first lap, and then risk people behind us running into us or something. So I just kind of let him go for that moment. But I don't know, driving a bit sloppy today, and fell further back and tried to speed up at some points, but yeah, towards the end of the race, I was like, I think the last like almost 8 laps or something. I was at 9 incidents, so on the verge of getting a drive-through penalty. So wasn't much I could do from that point.
I hear you, Paul. It looked like that. It looked like a little bit of an up and down race for you. At some points, you would steal away the fastest lap of the race, and then Manuel would counter that again with your laps, with you having a slide off here and there. At one point, you had a little bit of an incident in the hairpin at the end of the straightaways, where you didn't really spin, you didn't really slide, but you had trouble getting off the turn. What happened there?
Uh, I don't quite recall that 100% again anymore, but I think one time I like turned in too early or something and I hit the apex curb quite hard, which like unsettled the car. So I had to take it a bit easy there as well. But yeah, I don't know. It was just not really my day today, I guess. It felt like I was a bit asleep while driving. So if I still get a P2 out of that and my teammate takes the win, I'm like fine with that. So good day after all.
I'm sure, yes, and in the light of the rest of the championship, with the first three races really not falling your way either, I'm sure you're pretty happy with the second place finish.
Sure. I would have liked like Pavel, etc., and Christopher to be here as well today. It's okay to score some points here, but I'd rather score them when sharing the track with them and just fighting them one on one. But hopefully they'll be back next time, and we have a good race then.
All right, sounds very good, and I totally agree with you. The more title contenders that are in the race, the more exciting it all gets. Obviously, Paul, still a very good result. Unfortunately, we can't talk to your teammate Manuel. Very good and solid performance from him. Anybody you want to shout out to?
Yeah, big thanks for Manuel for being here again this week. Doing a great job taking the win. Well done to him and the rest of my teammates at Radicals Online. And our partners and sponsors, Summer Sense for Cranfield Simulation, Truck Racer, Joe Real Timing, Twin Racing, MA5 Podcast, Six Sideways, and Pixel Dust. And you guys for doing this broadcast this time and organizing the league, etc. So thanks. And everybody competing, of course.
Thank you very much, Paul.
All right.
All right, folks, that concludes our interviews. As said, Manuel is not on the TeamSpeak server, so I'm afraid I can't talk to him. It's always good to see him back. He's missed a few races this season. As said, he's only scored 1 point previous to this race, so I want to congratulate him from here on a very solid performance. I managed to get my results up here, as you can see. Manuel Domingo and Paul Ilbrink, both the Radicals Online Track Racer drivers, scoring the top positions here. Good result for them, and as Paul pointed out, it would have been a maybe more interesting race if the top contenders would have all been here. Unfortunately, life happens. We all understand, and we hope to see them back next time so we can continue this championship in the fullest of its glory. Good result for Danny Hoekstra on third position there in the Tulip Racing car. That's his second third position in a row. And as said, his teammate Dave in eighth, we appreciate him showing up and at least giving it a shot. Dave, we certainly hope you feel better quickly. And a shout out to Eloy Caballero in fourth position. Again, one of the new drivers. Very solid performances all through the first four races of this year, of this season, I should say. Same for Camille van den Driesche. A very good performance. Shout out to him for being the only driver in the field not taking any incident points from iRacing. Christian Malipart, if the top driver for the Fear the Deer team in sixth position. His teammate Jeff had an unfortunate start to the race. It went really well for him in practice, and then all of a sudden in qualifying and early on in the race, it just kind of collapsed for him. And sometimes you just have those days, not all by your own doing, sometimes even, but just bad luck. And then Leonardo Fabian Maas in seventh position, together with his teammate Esteban Guadarrama. They just kept on trucking today, and with the absence of some of the other drivers, they still score pretty good points as a team. That's good for them. Dave Gild, as said, in eighth. Then Mark Ponick, unlucky. Juancho Ovales, sorry, bud. Difficult tongue-breaking name. Unlucky day for him. Got a little help there from Van den Driesche. We'll have to see if any steps are taken to address that. But to me, it looked like a racing incident, and sometimes stuff happens, but I'm not the judge here, obviously. Javier de la Fuente in 12th position, and unfortunately, as said, Jeff Browning was our first man out. They're 40 laps down. They still score a couple points for getting here, so all in all, pretty good race here at Hockenheim. Always a tricky track, as you heard Paul say. It's one of the newer tracks on iRacing, and not everybody is all that accustomed to it yet. I think we saw a fairly good and interesting race. The first half was more exciting than the second half, but that's how it sometimes goes. And we hope to see you again, folks, in 2 weeks' time for the continuation of the eFormula Series Formula Renault 3.5 Championship in its fourth season. Hopefully the championship contenders will be back in action and we'll have a good fight on our hands then. Until then, I hope everybody stays healthy, take care of one another, and we hope to see you next time. Thank you.